It went swimmingly. I see your renovations went smoothly as well. I must admit, I like what you've done with the place. Really now? Excellent. I always wanted to try my hand at adventuring again. Oh? Then what type of quest is it? You know exactly what we do around here. Now, let me see that quest. Of course. When do we start? Let's.
¿Quién me va a entregar sus emociones? ¿Quién me va a pedir que nunca la abandone? ¿Quién me tapará esta noche si hace frío? ¿Quién me va a curar el corazón partido? ¿Quién llenará de primaveras este enero? Y bajará la luna para que juguemos. Dime si tú te vas, mi cariño mío. ¿Quién me va a curar el corazón partido?
Greetings, online travelers. I'm Aeron Tempest, and welcome back to the lab. Before we begin, allow me to introduce our current specimen. Meek DigbyTheGoat. On August 21st, 2017, he released a video titled Villainous Sucks, Here's Why, which explains his reasoning on why Villainous sucks. What a shock. A disagreement later and this video was born, so without further ado, let's charge ahead.
It's done. Listen up to these bars and when you're done, you'll be a Spanish superstar.
Blackhat here to make your most wicked thoughts come to life, literally.
This machine takes the most evil thing you can imagine and makes it real. For example,
This sandwich is the most evil thing you could think of.
So, one problem that you're going to notice pretty quickly is that the pacing is garbage. It has this weird tendency that after one line is spoken, the next line should immediately start and then immediately transition into the action. There are no pauses, there's nothing in there to set a tone.
But Digby, it's a minute-long cartoon. You can't expect there to be a lot of long pauses and time to build atmosphere.
Well, then I guess the creators just should have factored that in. Maybe they should have left themselves some room to breathe in between lines, because I've seen cartoons that are shorter than a minute and they do not feel this rushed.
Fast dialogue with no pauses automatically equals bad pacing, you say? Duly noted. Any scene featuring Goo, Moto, Jojo, Pinkie Pie, Dr. Oblak, or the Micro Machines guy has bad pacing on the spot. And I'm sorry, they should have thought about putting in more pauses in the show? Wouldn't that make the episode boring like, I don't know, the other episodes of Villainous you watched?
The rest are just kind of boring. Not much happens in them. There's not much to talk about. They're just sort of bland, okay?
Even then, they do have small pauses in between their lines. And there are longer pauses on top of that in other shorts.
Prime example right here at the beginning. See, he makes a sandwich, immediately cuts to him angry because it made a sandwich and that's the most evil thing he can think of. We don't see him look at the sandwich. We don't even see his expression change. See, in a competent cartoon, there would have been a pause, we would have seen him look, we would have seen his expression fucking change. There's no time to digest this information. This is basic stuff. This is basic timing in comedy.
Have you ever heard of a J-cut? It's basically a split editing technique wherein the audio of the scene plays before the visual component of the scene is shown. You see, when you're framing something, whether in live action or in animation, you want the camera to be set in a way that imitates how a third party would view the events. However, you want to use a J-cut when someone does something unexpected off-screen. Blackhat's outburst certainly counts. So it would make sense that you wouldn't see Blackhat's expression change because at that moment, the subject of the scene was a tuna sandwich, and by the time it would take to focus back on Blackhat, his expression would have already changed. This choice isn't as outlandish as you're making it out to be. Quit nitpicking.
You and me will learn to use to be. Let your ears escuchar. Tu ser, hey!
This sandwich is the most evil thing you could think of.
statistically speaking, this is 7 out of... Oh!
And no, they just leave that joke unfinished. They just leave it up in the air. Like, you wanted us to write a punchline for that joke? Go fuck yourself. You're not getting one. You know jokes come with these things called punchlines, right? You need to have them. You don't get to just cut off the punchline to a joke. Because that's what they just did. They just said, oh, the most evil thing he can think of is a tuna sandwich. Why? Well, I mean, God, this shit has a fandom. It can't even finish its own jokes.
Perhaps the interruption of the punchline was the punchline. Sometimes the interruption of a joke is more humorous than the original joke itself. Random humor thrives on this principle. For example, say I had person A and person B sharing a basic joke about a duck crossing the road or something.
Hey, person B,
What is it, person A?
why did the duck cross the road?
Gee, I don't know, person A. Why did the duck cross the road?
Well, you see, it's because there was a...
Wow, we didn't even set up a ritual this time.
I assure you that would be way funnier than for whatever reason the duck wanted to cross the road. Also, Black Hat has a habit of interrupting Dr. Flock before he can finish what he's saying.
Boss, it's really more of a device than a ray.
Does it work or not?
It works! It works! Hit the green button!
So this scene could also be justified as Black Hat being in character.
So not much happens. He creates more of himself. A bear comes by, creates more of them. This girl comes by, and she creates a muscular one. Which doesn't make sense. It's supposed to come up with the most evil thing she can imagine. Why is the most evil thing she can imagine something she likes? Are they forgetting what their own device does? I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Nope, that makes sense. You see, Dementia is a villain that loves Black Hat because he's evil. I mean, hello. Black Hat is the main villain after all. It would make sense that Black Hat 505 and Dementia would all consider Black Hat to be the most evil thing they could think of. Especially 505, considering how Black Hat treats him in other episodes. Besides, didn't you hear what JoJo's Bizarre Black Hat said?
The most evil thing I could think of is leaving the audience wishing for more.
And when he pushed the button between his mighty JoJo pecs, it terminated the camera feed, like the device was supposed to do. The writers clearly knew what the device did, and were merely playing around with the implications of the device.
So after she creates Black Hat Joestar, the thing ends. It was basically a whole lot of nothing. It's also important to mention that her whole thing throughout all the episodes I saw is that she does nothing except swoon over Black Hat. That's her entire purpose. Which even I found disappointing, because I thought she was at least going to be some sort of, super criminally insane character. I mean, her name is Dementia, and all she does is play the role of Tootie in this.
A whole lot of nothing? These episodes are meant to be filler in the same vein as the OKKO minisodes. They exist to flesh out the cast and provide brief insights on their daily routine and relationships. Nothing more, nothing less. 2. Are we also going to ignore the fact that Dementia also serves as a narrative foil for 505, since both of them are joyous underlings? But while 505 is generally kind-hearted, Dementia is anything but. Furthermore, Dementia also takes a liking to messing with 505 any chance she gets. And on top of all of that, there are moments where Dementia isn't drooling over Black Hat when they're both in the same room, so it's not like that's her entire character. Alright, let's say for the sake of argument that Dementia is a satellite character defined only by her blatant crush of Black Hat. Couldn't you say that her love of Black Hat would be, I don't know, demented?
The rest, yeah, like I said, they're all just pretty boring. There's nothing too much to talk about with them. Just not very eventful, not very good. But what I do want to talk about is why this shit, or at least why I think this shit is popular, because that's the interesting part. I mean, you watched the opening sketch, didn't you?
Hey, you the guy I talked to about getting my show made?
Yeah, that's me. I'm a Cartoon Network executive, Cheesehead McCheeseballs.
Don't remind me.
It should be no secret that the reason this shit is popular is because of Tumblr. I mean, just look at the art style. Look at the character design. This looks like something Sleepy Kink would make.
Dude, you do know that this cartoon didn't just pop into the ether, right? Villainous started as a series of shorts in 2012, and looky here, it has a similar art style to the current Villainous minisodes, and this was way before the standardized Tumblr art style, whatever that means since you didn't explain it, was popularized. I mean, who even is this Sleepy Kink character? Couldn't you provide me a visual aid of their work, or was I supposed to read up on that before your Villainous Sucks 101 class? Well, if the latter's the case, it would be wise not to name a Tumblr artist whose search results yield links to only their YouTube and DeviantArt pages, if that's even the artist in question. Even then, I hate this notion that just because an art style is similar to an already existing style on Tumblr, the show is automatically pandering to Tumblr. That's such a gross leap of logic to take without a shred of proof to back it up. What if the artist from Tumblr was simply hired to work on the show as a job? Oh wait, that's exactly what happened. Do not judge a book's intent by their covers, please. That's coverist, and that's just wrong.
But it's more than just the Tumblr art style. See, this thing is carefully crafted down to the minute detail to be pure fandom fuel. The main role is a dominant, angry male character. It would be what Tumblr would call a seimei. This is what the fandom would consider the dominant, sexy one, I guess.
Dude, just being an angry dominant man doesn't make for a fan-favorite character. What makes Black Hat work is how exaggerated his cruelty is and how he goes about it. Blue Jay on your fence? Kill it with Death Vision. 505 drops some ice cream? Recreate it and then turn it into a monster to scare him. Then scare the ice cream monster into melting. Dementia causing a ruckus in the lab despite Flog's protests? One-up her by destroying the entire lab with a single note from a giant piano. His trollish behavior is a prime example of comedic sociopathy. Another element in Black Hat's toolbox is his wide assortment of powers, which would have viewers watching just to see what else this guy is capable of. Plus, he runs his business like a used car dealership, not unlike the enemy salesman from Kirby Right Back At Ya. Plus, the dude is a sharply dressed villain, with a Cockney accent to boot. The dude was bound to become popular no matter what. Who doesn't like a sharply dressed British man?
Yo, Aeron. At me next time.
You're a sharply dressed British shark, Jiggy.
I fail to see your point, Aeron.
Then there's the shy, passive, cutesy character who's just nervous, who all the Tumblr people can relate to because they're shy and nervous too. And he is what they would call a UK, which is the passive one who basically exists to be shipped with a Black Hat, because Tumblr is a pretty big fan of dom and sub pairing.
The relationship you're describing is sensitive guy and manly man, a common narrative foil used to provide juxtaposition to a cast of characters. It is not inherently used to make shipping fuel between characters. Even then, Dr. Flog is not acting out of shyness, he is acting out of fear of Black Hat specifically. He doesn't seem to be nervous around Dementia or 505 after all. Considering what Black Hat can do, he has a justified reason to fear him. Even then, screw the employee dynamic between a villain and his bumbling goons, or a bad corporate boss and the employees he abuses. This is shipping fuel, no doubt about it. Also, let's not prove that Flug exists to be shipped with Black Hat. No, that would be the coward's way. Let's also forget elements like Draco and Leather Pants, Ensemble Dark Horses, or Crack Ships are fan-based reactions and are usually unintentional responses of someone's work. No, those aren't things either. You know what? Forget this noise. I'm getting some non-alcoholic wine from the Celestial Cafe. Valatora, you're in charge while I'm gone. Does it look like I care?
And Dementia would be like the waifu character of the show. She's for all the autistic neckbeards out there like me who like to jack off to cartoon characters.
When you're doing an action, you better be a star utilizing. Estoy mirando, caprando, llorando, anything.
And then there's the bear. He has to be the cute, innocent character, because there always has to be one of those in these shows. There's Gurr, there's the red guy, the guy with the red hair from League of Super Evil, and there's the other bear in Evil Con Carne. This isn't even the first villain show with a freaking bear in it. What the hell?
First of all, Gurr's not nice. He's advanced. Second, the purple bear? You mean Hector Con Carne? You do know he's the boss of Evil Con Carne, emphasis on the evil, and is essentially the main character, right? Really? Is that so? Alright, thank you. I've been informed that the character you're referring to is Boskov. My mistake. But that's what happens when you vaguely allude to other characters without proper explanation. I mean, yes, he is the nice one in the group, but his main purpose is to be the replacement body of Hector Con Carne. Compare this to 505, whose purpose seems to be the muscle of the group, and this argument doesn't hold much water. In fact, 505 has more in common with Red Menace, but even then, Red Menace speaks, while 505 cannot, and unlike Red Menace, who is treated fairly well by his comrades, 505 is frequently tormented by both Black Hat and Dementia. My point is, 505 may have some similarities with those two examples, but they are not carbon copies. Also, bears being nice in fiction has been around since the concept of teddy bears. What's your point?
And apparently the bear is voiced by Markiplier, because he's popular on Tumblr too. Why? Why though? Why the fuck? The bear doesn't have any lines. It just goes. He just makes some autistic retard noises. Okay? Why are you gonna get freaking Markiplier to do that? You can get like the janitor at the studio to do that. I mean, seriously, if you're gonna have Markiplier, have him say some stuff. Have it be worth having him there.
Oh, come on! What the fuck? Oh, fuck that! Alright, Markiplier voiced 505 in the original version of the show, which was in Spanish, and they've left their lines unchanged in the dubbed version. Unless you have proof that Markiplier habla español bueno, it would make sense that his only lines in the show were grunts. Also, and I don't know if you noticed this, but Markiplier also voices JoJo's Bizarre Black Cat in the English dub of the show. Thus, your point falls flat on two different angles. Finally, how is getting the voice of Markiplier appealing to Tumblr fans when the majority of his fanbase is active on YouTube?
That said, I get this show. It's supposed to be a parody of supervillain tropes, but that's been done to death. There is nothing new you can really say about supervillains that hasn't been done a million other times by a million other, like, cartoons, shows, movies, anything really. It's comic books, all this stuff. Okay? Think of something else, alright? You're late to the game.
Guess again. Villainous has a trump card. Black Hat is a villainous businessman who sells gadgets and weapons for a quick buck. This is a concept that wasn't explored by your previous examples, and this aspect alone opens up more avenues for parodying both superhero and supervillain tropes. Furthermore, see Black Hat's assortment of powers here. I doubt you can simply predict anything from a show that hosts a character with those types of abilities, and that's just Black Hat. We don't know what everyone else is capable of. After this, Digsby ends the video by offering his predictions on how every episode of Villainous would go should it ever become a show proper. So now would be a good time to pull the plug. Now, on to the concluding statements. Digsby, your video can be dismantled with a single trope. Tropes aren't bad. If you think Villainous shares similarities with other shows, that's fine. If you don't like the art style of Villainous, that's fine too. But to use those as a crux for your argument on why the show is bad, that, my good man, is not fine. Especially considering the problem that you had with Villainous' art style was that it was done before, not that it was aesthetically unpleasing to look at, unlike many other shows that have aired on Cartoon Network prior, in my opinion. I also have a problem with your character analysis, or should I say character distillation. You boil down these characters to a single element in order to suit your agenda. Like, really? The two male characters exist to fuel fangirlships, and the sole female character exists to fuel Rule 34? Really? Are you going there? Ignoring the fact that this show's roots go back to 2012, long before these Tumblr fads of yours were popularized, I took a look and found this. Now, according to the show's creator, Black Hat is based off of his father, and 505 was based off of himself as a child, which has invited some wild mass guessing. On a happier note, Dr. Flog is explicitly based off of Alan's best friend, to the extent of calling him to ask for his opinion when a fan asks Alan whether Flog likes pancakes, and Dementia was based off of villain-worshipping fangirls and a girl that introduced him to anime. There you have it. From the word of God. Your move. Now, is Villainous overrated? Perhaps so. I can see an argument for both sides here. However, your video did nothing to further the conversation on either side. It was nothing more than a nitpicking mess that focused more on the show's general concept rather than its execution, and the times that you did focus on the execution, the issues you brought up were so minuscule they're barely worth considering. So my recommendation to you is thus. Keep an open mind. Do not simply believe that something is bad because the concept has been done before, or that an art style is similar to something else, because there's nothing new under the sun, my friend. Now, I'm not saying you can never compare shows to ones with similar concepts or art styles. Comparisons between shows can allow us to decipher what certain elements work in one show and not in another, which is very important. What I'm saying is give the show a little bit of room to explore its concepts before casting judgment. After all, some shows might surprise you with a unique twist or deconstruction.
De un genio malvado a otro mojo, te diré que esto no te matará, aunque tal vez lo desees.
But hey, that's my own take on the matter. Cheers.
Primavera este enero y bajará la luna para
Thanks for coming to visit me, Person B.
No problem, Person A. I'm glad, and also shocked, but mostly glad you survived that.
Same. You know, I never did finish that joke earlier. Mind if I finish it?
Sure, man. Why did the duck cross the road?
Because there was a quack on the sidewalk.